We did start the first foray into hiring athletes was creating an internship specific to the athletes, not part of our overall EY internship program. So it's like, let's bring in a cohort that will be in, they won't all be physically together. They'll be in different countries. Have them all start around the same time. Have make it a try before you buy on both sides, right? Because there will be athletes that will say, hey, this is just not for me. Um, and then at the end of typically around the 6 month period, then there's the opportunity to say, hey, if you like what you're doing, we like what you're doing. Do you want to turn this into a full-time opportunity? So that took some doing and some mechanics. This was before Joice was in role to get up and running, but it was doable. It was certainly doable to be able to hire some great new talent to the firm now. And big thanks to Joice, there's lots of other ways that we can, welcome athletes into the firm. It's not just that internship. So she's, as she mentioned, working with, the recruiting team to say, hey, let's look at openings. Let's see who might be a fit for those. We have a global database of candidates and the like. So, but if for your listeners, it's like, hey, where do I start? How do I start something like this? There are ways to do that by creating a kind of a safe and a different space for people to explore who normally are not in the kind of corporate recruiting cycle.
I went on a bit of a listening tour and was just like talking to the business and saying, what is it you're looking for? Why would you hire an athlete? Why would you not hire an athlete? What are those transferable skills that you're looking for? What are your teams lacking? What are your teams needing? Did the listening tour and then kind of applied the athlete approach to it and said, what would Joice have needed 10 years ago? Because Dawn, career transition for athletes, it's difficult. They're very good at training and doing as they're told. And then suddenly, that life is taken away from you, your identity is taken away from you. And who are you? I don't know about you, but I'm planning on living until I'm 100. So how are we going to pay these bills? And what are we going to do for the next chapter of our life? So career transition became, and career readiness, it just became, like a big passion project for me of, okay, what can we do here? And then being able to speak with leadership and with Dan and saying, look, the gap is the upskilling, that they don't have the technical knowledge, they don't have the experience, because no, they weren't able to be on an internship because they were competing at a world championships or a major championship somewhere else when everybody else was having that intern experience. And then they've been doing these fabulous, amazing things with their bodies for the last decade. So where would they have got this experience from? So being able to create an opportunity to say, well, let's look at EY's future hiring needs and where we know that these positions are going to be in the future, to say, okay, let's upskill some athletes to actually make them attractive for these positions that we know will be coming down the pipe. But then it wasn't just about what can we do and what can we get from these athletes. It's also what can we give? People remember how you made them feel, not what you said to them. And during a time that's difficult, where nobody is guiding and coaching them through the transition and the identity loss, let's also deliver a program where they can go through this experience as a cohort. And we got them on calls and workshops, and we just talked about, this is transition. This is what you're going through. And a job at EY is not going to solve all of your problems. And, we were just kind. And then we even had a session where we talked about, are you even recruitment ready? You might want a job, but let's bring some recruiters in that look at thousands of resumes every month and let them actually coach you a little on what it is that they're looking for. What is the format of a resume? How do we wordsmith the gap? How do we explain where you've been and what you've been doing? And, fabulous words like transferable skills are thrown out there. But what actually are the transferable skills? What are employers looking for? How do you articulate those skills? When you break it down and say to an athlete, you've turned up at practice and you were 10 minutes early every day. You was never late. Something tells me then you know how to manage your time. Something tells me then that you know how to prioritize what's important, what's not, and show up and be ready. So it was, again, not just, hey, here's a couple of online courses for you, but, looking at the whole person and being able to uplift them. And again, it was that what would Joyce have needed 10 years ago? And tried to put all of that together. We have
Yeah, Joyce.
72 elite professional athletes that work at EY. Of that 72, 42 of them are ex-Olympians, and they cover across all of our service lines. So we have a wide breadth. We're not just looking at, entry level individuals. The current cohort that we have for the career readiness program, we brought 42 athletes in to the program. In that cohort, we've hired two. Funny enough, two of them started yesterday. One in the US, one in Africa, and we have another 5 that are interviewing within the firm. So it's not just one home for these athletes. It's a global initiative. It's across all service lines, across all ranks. So you have one here. So of the 72, I'm one of that 72. So I sit in core business services in talent.
It
Go
really
ahead,
does
Jeff.
run the gamut, Don. I think one of the things that I found really interesting was that initially, when you think of how a professional athlete might, where they might, be most successful in a big professional services company. I mean, other companies have tried this, by the way, and have different iterations. It's like, oh, well, they could come and speak at conferences about resilience and winning, or they could be in marketing, and we certainly have athletes in those practices, but they also are very much in client serving roles. So they serve as consultants in our consulting practice. We have people that work in our audit practice, in advisory, and everywhere in between, right? So I would say that the largest majority of athletes, well, are probably somewhere between consulting and what we call core business services. So that's
Mhm.
everything that supports our business. So finance, human resources, marketing, talent, et cetera. But we have a number of them that are out serving clients. Like I said, consulting, tax, advisory, all those kinds of capacities. So it runs a gamut. One of the interesting things um, that helps us be so drawn to athletes is that yes, they're overachievers in sport. They tend to be overachievers in other parts of their lives as well. I have been blown away when I get a resume from an Olympic rower who also, by the way, got her MBA part-time, started her own business, runs a community center. And this is like, it's just more of that aha moment. Like, how did we not get in front of this group meaningfully earlier than this? Because they bring so much to the table. Joyce and I both have a couple that we could certainly point to. So adaptability is one that comes to mind for me. So um, obviously these are at the highest level, learning how to do new and different things, whether that's technique and sport. They bring that very much into the workforce. So people that have never been in a corporate environment or not one like ours are able to say, okay, here's something that needs to get done. Here's how I do it with the right amount of training and discipline. I can do it, right? So there's that. I think resilience is another big one, right? Any great athlete will can easily recount how she or he has overcome failures, whether that's injury, defeat, misfortune, whatever it is. And that is something that we come across every day, right, at work. So resilience, I think, is a big one. Leadership for me is another one that I see. And you want an example? I'm looking at one. Joyce came into this role, and it's a role that largely has to act on its own. I'm the sponsor of the athlete program, but she does all the work, reaching out to people, doing, getting people interested in the program, deciding the direction of the program. And I think her background in athletics, I haven't had to guide her very much at all because she's self-guided, self-motivated, and is a natural leader, which was cultivated as part of her career in sports. So I would say those are a couple that come really to mind. I don't know, Joyce, if you would add any as the resident athlete on the call.
The one that I would add, which seems to be a topic at the moment, we're doing quite a few like talks and panels with just groups within the firm, and one that people keep on talking about is the athlete bounce back and how athletes are able to take feedback,
Mm.
and how in some ways to be successful, they are seeking and desiring that feedback and not waiting just for the feedback cycle, but like it in real time. As an athlete, you would do a drill, a run, or whatever it was, you would look up to your coach for immediate feedback. And something that we've coined here is like that, if you're able to get the basics and to hone and work really well on them by being open to your feedback, it's going to give you freedom to be able to grow within your role. You've got to be able to have the discipline to then be able to get the freedom that you need. And athletes have that freedom and that discipline because of they're able to bounce back when something's not going their way or they make a mistake.
I'd say from a corporate lens, it really helped me at the time and us now to address two things. Number one is, it's a tangible program or example that you can hire people that have different backgrounds, different educational backgrounds, different experience, and they can be successful. This is a big issue for lots of large organizations, Don, where they're so used to hiring a specific type or from a specific school or people with a specific either educational or experience history that's what they keep going back to. And we said, look, hey, give us a chance to show you some that someone else can be successful in doing that. What defines success for what you need for your part of the business? And this was a very practical, manageable way, but very, very tangible way to do that. I think the other thing also is, and I alluded to it earlier, is because we were originally and to a large extent still today focused on female athletes. It's a big part of our effort. It is helping us to solve an issue of diversity. I mentioned in lots of professional services, banking, consultancies, there is a dearth of female professionals, and attracting more women professionals through this venue or through this medium has been a great win for us. It's a great way to bring diversity of thought and background and culture and skills into the firm that we didn't have prior to the program existing. Before you do anything, deciding to get into this piece of work. What problem or what problem are you trying to solve? What opportunity are you trying to take advantage of? So it was very clear to us, going back to those two things I mentioned earlier, that we were very interested in continuing to expand our sourcing channels and also to bring more super talented people into the firm. So with those two as backdrop, getting this program off the ground, while it wasn't easy, knowing that we had a North Star of this is going to put us in front of more great, talented people that are from non-traditional sources, that helped us to get lots of things over the line, and to this day continues to help us get over the line. So I would say, know what you're trying to do, because if you say, hey, it would just be nice to have some former, professional ball players walking around the hallways, that's not going to get it done. And I would just say that then the second thing is start somewhere. I always say start with the willing. You're invariably, and Joice will tell you, we've come across so many people that maybe we're not elite athletes, but have a penchant for it, or were athletes in their own right, or still athletic today. Like, oh, that would be great. And I know how much sport helped or helps me in my corporate life, right? The lessons learned, or keeping my, keep staying fit, etc. If you're interested and you have that North Star, then start with it with a group, a practice, a business unit that gets it and is willing to take the journey with you, because ultimately that's going to be really important to get people over the line and hired and successful when they start out.
Just to piggyback on that, Dan, as an athlete sitting on the other side, you've got to signpost it. I remember hearing about the EY athlete program and everything that happened around Rio, and it was women professional athletes. It gave me an opportunity to say, that's me. So I knew that this employer was looking for somebody like me, and it was safe for me to then put it on my resume. So the clear signposting to give an athlete an opportunity to say, you know what, I tick those boxes, because athletes are very good at ticking boxes. And if they don't tick all the boxes, they won't apply. So it has to be clear signposting so that they know that this is a company that will support me and understand the challenges of transition and give me the space and the grace to thrive.